Today in our 2016 ACE Thor Motorcoach on the Ford F-53 chassis, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster rear anti-sway bar, part number 113-144.
We will also be using the extended U-bolt kit for Roadmaster Anti-Sway Bars, part number RM-590050-00.
This kit is going to come with a 1 3/4 inch diameter sway bar. It's designed to improve the handling of your vehicle by reducing body roll and balancing the weight transfer during cornering. It's going to come with all necessary hardware to get it installed.
Beginner installation, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this plate off and we're going to be replacing these U-bolts. Before doing that, if you're going to do this and lift the vehicle where your wheels are off the ground, you want to make sure you put jack stands and support this axle. Because what's going to happen is when you take this plate off, the axle will drop. So you need to make sure you have it sitting on something.
What you're going to want to do is you're going to spray down each bolt with some lubrication. It's just going to help these come off a little bit easier. If you see this little hole in the top here, might be a good idea to spray some down there too to get down the top of the bolt and hopefully run down underneath inside of the nut.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by loosening up these 4 nuts here. Now these are going to be tough to get off. If you use a breaker bar, it'd be ideal. So I'm going to use an 1/8" socket and a breaker bar. Once you get them loosened, if you have an impact drill or an impact tool, you can use it. Now what we'll do is we'll drop this plate off. We're going to set it right here. And then we're going to take our U-bolts off the top here. They're going to come out over top the springs. Now, there's a plate right up here. You can see it spins. You want to make sure that it's not sitting that way. There's little grooves in here that your U-bolt sits on the top of your spring in. You want to make sure it's sitting flat. And next we're going to take our new U-bolts. We're going to go over the top like this. And you want to make sure they're sitting in the groove. You want to make sure you go in between the brake line and the axle. So next, with an extra set of hands, we're going to put our plate back in place.
Since we will be installing our Roadmaster Anti-Sway Bar at this time, we will also install the plate for it before we install our hardware. If you are installing your anti-sway bar at a later date, then you can skip this step.
Now we'll go ahead and tighten up all of our nuts. Next, we'll torque everything down to the specifications and the instructions. This part here is a part that's going to go underneath your drive shaft. It's going to be a forward-facing sway bar. Next, we'll take our provided grease and we're going to grease the inside of these split bushings. And once you're done, you're going to take it and then you're going to put it over your sway bar. Next we'll take our bracket and we'll just slide it over top of our split bushing. And we're going to do that on both sides. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove our jack stands from under our axle. Now we'll lower our axle back down. So next what we're going to do is you're going to take your 7/16 hex bolt by 1.5 inch and you're going to have some copper colored washers. You're going to put one washer on the top, pull the bolt through the bottom, put the other washer on the bottom, and then foul it up by the nut. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Where I put it in is the second hole. Now you're going to have 4 holes on the side on each plate. The front one's going to be for over 18,000 pounds. The back holes are going to be for everything under 18,000 pounds. Go ahead and tighten our hardware down. We're going to be using 11/16" socket. Next, we'll torque everything down to specifications and the instructions. Next, we're going to take our shackle and we're going to put it right over the end of our sway bar here. Then we're going to take our 3" by 1/2" bolt and we're going to come from the outside going in. Then we'll take the nut and we'll put it on the end. Now we want to make sure we don't tighten these yet until we get everything in place. So next we'll take this bracket. You want to make sure that this plate with the 2 holes in it is going to be to the outside of the frame, and we're going to put it on the top of our shackle. Again, we're going to use one of our longer bolts. We'll go from the outside to the inside. And you're going to want to do the same thing on the opposite side. So once you get your brackets in place here, you want to make sure that the vehicle is sitting on the ground so you can get the correct ride height, so that when you lift this up into place, you want to make sure that this shackle is going straight up and down from the frame. You can see here, looks like I'm going to need to move this wire here with the bolt running through the frame. I'll remove this ground wire. We're just going to set that aside for now. I will take this pair of vice grips or a clamp. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side of the vehicle. This is at a slight angle. The reason this is like this is because over on the other side of the vehicle there is a bracket that is welded to the frame that is holding the exhaust on. So per the instructions they say they want these straight. However, per the manufacturer, these can be at a slight angle. They prefer them to be straight, but they can be at a slight angle. So if at all possible, make them straight. Now, I've already got this matching the other side. It doesn't look like it's going to hit this, but I'm going to have to drill the holes in the back through the frame to put my mounting hardware. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this top bolt here, and I'm just going to rotate this out of my way to make sure when I drill my hole that I don't drill into the plastic. We're just going to rotate it like that. So you can see here what I did is I took a wooden block and a jack. I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure here on the bottom side of this to make sure that this bracket is going to be flat up against my frame. I need to drill my 2 holes in my frame. As you can see, I drilled a pilot hole through the center of my 2 holes in my bracket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a larger bit and I'm going to drill those holes out the size of the hole in the bracket so I fit my bolts through. So from here, once you get your holes drilled, you're going to take your last set of bolts and washers, put a washer on your bolt. You're going to come from the outside of the frame in through your bracket, through the frame hole. We'll go with the washer on the inside, followed by the lock nut. So as you can see here, this electrical box hits the nut on this side from its original mounting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it all the way off, tighten this down, and see if I can't put this back in the original spot. Next, I'm going to tighten down my 2 top bolts here, hold my bracket on my frame. I'll be using a 3/4 inch socket, 3/4 inch wrench. Torque these to the specifications and the instructions. Next, we'll tighten our bolts here on the bottom. We'll be using a 15/16 socket and a wrench. We just want those snugged up. You don't want to tighten them so tight that you end up breaking anything. Then from there, we'll go ahead and torque everything down. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side of the vehicle. So as you can see, our original spot for this electrical box here, it's not going to meet up because of our new bracket. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the same bottom hole. I'm just going to rotate it up like this and drill a new hole right there. And that'll do it for the Roadmaster rear anti-sway bar, part number 1139-144 on our 2016 ACE Thor Motorcoach on the Ford F-53 chassis.